everybody. Welcome back, youtube.com/Geek Aloud. I am almost ready to go live. You know it's 8 p.m.ish on a Thursday night. Unfortunately, as you can see, Unky Dunky offline this evening. Happy anniversary, sir. But joining me, of course, is Bully. Bully, sir, how are you this evening?
I am doing fantastic, mate. A couple of big announcements over the last week and looking forward to a bumper sort of month or two of game releases coming up. So that should be fantastic. We'll have a chat about some of those tonight.
Oh, you know it, mate. I've been doing all my chores. I've been hitting up the neighbours. I've been mowing lawns. I've been getting my cash together just for the upcoming flood of games that you know are about to hit us. Thank you for joining me this evening. For all of you viewers out there, let me tell you how this show runs. First off, Bully and I will take you through games, interrogation, and deliberation. It's the 5 games Bully and I have been playing this week. We'll take a deep dive, go for a walk down there. As we go, feel free to comment away. If you've played it, let us know. Any questions, bang them in that YouTube chat. Next up, we have the news segment. And Bully, I hope you've been kicking in some doors, mate. Have you?
We certainly have been kicking in some doors. We've got some fairly up-to-date news coming up. And then what's the next segment after that one, mate?
The Standoff, everyone's favourite, the Standoff now, coming out tomorrow. I need to let everyone know, keep your eyes on the channel. There will be a Let's install just as soon as the Amazon man knocks on my door and delivers me Gotham Knights. We will have Gotham Knights out, and in honour of Gotham Knights coming out tomorrow, I believe the Standoff, Bully, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's the best Batman games to date. Does that sound correct to you?
That does sound correct to me, Troy, and I'm probably in the same boat as you. I'm waiting for the delivery man to give me an old tap on the door and put on his delivery.
Perfect. I love it. That'll be great. And then, of course, segment 4 is audience, interrogation, and deliberation. That's when we come over to you. That's right. You have a job. As we're yammering on this evening, please join in that conversation via the YouTube chat. Comments, thoughts, suggestions, bang them in the YouTube chat. We round them up and get back to you during segment 4. But we always start with segment 1. And of course, it's games, interrogation, and deliberation. First up this evening is Unusual Findings. Bully, I'll cut to the chase and say Stranger Things, Netflix's series, an homage, if you will, to the 80s. This game is a point-and-click adventure. It just came out this week. Unusual Findings. And I got to say, for me, an old-school PC point-and-click adventure type of guy, it's me down to the ground. It's chock full of 80s references. If you look there, his bedroom walls got the Back to the Future poster on it. It's just full, chock full of 80s nostalgia. There's posters left, right, and center. There's music. There's references. There's subtle jabs. There's all sorts of things referencing the 80s. I played this one on the couch. I had the missus next to me. It was couch co-op, shared the controller in hand. I was just sitting off to the side pointing out, oh, click on that, interact with that. That'll solve this riddle, much to her annoyance. But we did have a great time. We put about an hour 30 into it. I think we're about an hour and a half in. And this is footage only from the first hour. I tried not to spoil any puzzles or anything, but this is a fantastic game. Hopefully you can see from the art style. It is old school. A fantastic adventure. It's well written. It's well acted. It's well visually represented. It's well audio represented. The input's spot on. Basically, it's a PS4 game. Exactly what you want to get your hands on if you're into the old point-and-click adventures. Bully, does that sound like you? Were you a point-and-click adventure fan back in the day?
I used to be a massive point-and-click adventure fan back in the day. All the LucasArts games.
Yes! Full Throttle?
Full Throttle. There was the Sierra Online games as well. That I think there was an Eco Quest and a Sea Quest in there. You had...
Don't forget Leisure Suit Larry.
Leisure Suit Larry. You had Monkey Island. You had,
King's Police Quest. King's Quest.
Yes, yeah, all those. I'm just looking at the footage now. It looks to me how you think those games would have looked.
Yes.
In hindsight. So if you'd
correct
those 80s and 90s point and click adventure again, so you go back to them and they look, to be honest, they look fairly atrocious. But this is what you think they would look like.
Yes.
Looking back.
Correct.
And I haven't put any time into it, but what you've described to me is certainly 100% up my alley. The only thing I find, and I don't know whether you've come across this so far, is in some of the old point-and-click adventures, there's some quite obtuse puzzles that
Oh.
make absolutely no sense whatsoever, and you sort of sit there going, "What's going on?" And then you know, you don't want to look up a guide, but you do, and then you look at and it gives you the answer, and you go, "Not in a million years will I think that."
There is, I would argue they've gone about 20% in that direction. They've gone enough in that direction that you're like, oh my God, I remember this ridiculousness. However, just after you have that thought, you think, oh, maybe I'll just click on this one thing and there's your answer. So they haven't drawn it out. It's not like a one-to-one representation of the frustration of, the 80s, 90s point-and-click adventures, but they've paid enough homage to it that you just start to get that feeling, and then suddenly the answer comes and you're off again. I've, done no guides to get into it, but it's absolutely perfect. I absolutely love this game, and I can't wait for my missus to have some more spare time so we can get further through it. What you're looking at here on screen is the opener, and the boys just do a very much an E.T. movie ride through of the town, but they go through a bunch of the scenes that take place in the game. So, it's early on, it's foreshadowing the whole game. Here's all the environments you're going to see. Obviously, when you get into those environments, they're much larger. They don't fully spoil the game in the opener, but they very much allude to, here's all the types of environment. It's so 80s. It's exactly what you want. If you're an 80s guy, I got to tell you, this game is 100% for you. You should definitely check it out. I'm a huge fan. As I said, those the puzzles remind you of the old stuff, but they've got enough of the new stuff in them that you're not stuck for hours. You're not forced to look for a guide. It's just enough to make you scratch your head for a minute and then go, oh, geez, I'm the smartest bloke alive. Let's check the pot plant for the hidden key. And bang, you're off. You're away. So it's fantastic. 2 big thumbs up from me. Bully, any questions? Have I left anything out?
No, I think you've explained it pretty well, and I 100%. I reckon I'll have to jump on this one. It's not a Game Pass game, though, is it?
No, correct. It is not in Game Pass. It's not in PlayStation Plus. It's, I want to say, $26, somewhere right around there, to get your hands on it. Oh, I should note the code was supplied to me for the Let's Install video, which is up on the channel. And I'm going to say it's a tiny install. If you're bandwidth constraint, not only is it a small install, it's also a very long game. There's a lot of bang for your buck in this tiny install. 2 big thumbs up from me. It's fantastic. And I've got to say, my man here on screen, the nerd alert, the guy setting up the antenna and decoding the signals, that sounds a lot like me. This character particularly resonated well with me. And yes, Bully, I see you and Unky there. I see Unky in the red jacket and you in the green jacket, mate. It's perfect. It reminded me of the 3 of us.
Oh, it's funny though. I sort of look at that and go, that's Unky's like the Michael J. Fox of the trio, and I'm not sure I can cop that.
Well, if he wasn't having his anniversary dinner, I'm sure he'd be in to defend himself. Unfortunately, he is. Oh, which reminds me, Game 5, Unky Dunky. I've got an anniversary present for you, inbound, Game 5, but you've got to wait for it. My final thoughts on this game. This is fantastic. It has gotten nowhere near enough coverage. As I said, it just came out this past week. 2 massive thumbs up for me. If you're from the 80s, you absolutely owe it to yourself to play this game. As Bully pointed out, it's not in any service. At the moment, you're going to have to fork over cash, or maybe if you're so inclined, hold out a few months, maybe it'll appear somewhere for free. Bully, any final thoughts on the Unusual Findings / Stranger Things game?
No, I'm thoroughly intrigued by it. It's got me hooked with the old point-and-click adventure. It's as I said, as long as those puzzles aren't so obtuse, but you've explained it pretty well, I reckon it's something I'm going to have to jump into.
Fantastic, mate. I look forward to hearing your thoughts at some point in the future, which brings us to game 2 this week, which is a game from the past, I would argue. I believe it's set in the 1400s, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 1500s. It's A Plague Tale Requiem, which is, of course, the sequel to, 2017's A Plague Tale Innocence? I'm not sure on that, but it is the sequel to A Plague Tale Innocence. That one's a few years old. This one, the developers were telling us they never intended to make a sequel. They deliberately left the end of the first game open for a sequel, should they need to do one, but this was fully driven by the fans' support for the first game. I have only played a little bit of it, so Bully, over to you for the lead investigation of A Plague Tale Requiem, recently released on Game Pass.
Yeah, released today on Game Pass. In fact, I'm not sure if you ever got to play in the first one. I was very late to it. I think we spoke about it maybe a couple of months ago on the G.E.A. But and I was full of praise for the original one. It was a fantastic. It had the stealth elements. It had the creeping around. It had the puzzle bits with the rats and that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go into the story with that. I'm not going to go into the story with this because it's based around the story. I will say that for both the games is largely about you're more or less defenseless to start with. You start off, and you might be able to see on the screen there. You start off sort of throwing rocks at enemies to distract them, and that's sort of the total amount of ammunition or weaponry you sort of have to start with. But the more you sort of progress through, you get some more items that can help you deal with the rats, and some of them can deal with the enemies as well. And sorry, I probably glossed over a little bit at the start. As you said, it's sort of set in the 14th century France around the time of the Black Plague going through Europe, which is obviously carried by rats. So that's sort of where they play into it a bit. And you've got a group of guys looking for you. So you've got two different distinct enemies that you've got to sort through, the human element and and obviously the rats as well. And the way that they intertwine the puzzles in with the stealth part and the mechanics, and quite often at the start of the game they separate the two. So you're sort of either doing the stealth part and trying to sneak past people, or you're doing the puzzle solving, trying to get through the rats. But later in the game, and especially with the first one, they ended up combining the two. So you then have the rats that are coming into the same scene as the human enemies as well, and you end up having to try and use the rats to either distract the enemies, or to use the rats to kill them, so that you can still sneak around and stuff. So even towards the end of the game, you don't ever get to a point where you become massively overpowered. You've probably just got enough to get you through most scenarios, and there's always a one-off. Pretty much for each area, a one-off. I've made a mistake and I've been caught by an enemy, and you can sort of shiv them.
Yep.
And that'll get you through that sort of level. But one of the things I've noticed, which is probably a little bit different to the first one, and I've probably put 2 or 3 hours into it now, is if you get spotted going through any of these stealth bits by the enemy, normally with stealth games, they'll have a look for you, then they return to their original area or position that they were sort of patrolling. I've noticed a couple of times in this, if they spot you and they sort of surround you in an area, they don't return to where they were. They stay and set up a new pattern in that area where they last saw you, which I found once got me into a bit of trouble, because I basically cornered myself into this position.
Yeah, right.
To get out, and I had to restart the whole
checkpoint
again, rather than just that one point I was up to. So an interesting take on it, I suppose, for the old usual dumb AI enemy that, give them a minute and they just tootle off.
Yeah. Everyone back to position 1.
But again, as I said, I've put probably 2 or 3 hours into it. It's probably similar. It's similar to the first one, although I'm probably not finding quite as much of a hook into it. But hopefully that comes in the next couple of hours once the story really gets going. But
I think you said a couple of weeks back when we were discussing that one, I believe you said the first one, was it 1 or 2 hours in the first one that really got its hooks in you? How far are you into this one, and are you expecting maybe the similar pacing?
Yeah, and that's sort of where I'm at now, in that 2 or 3 hour sort of window. You've got the sort of lead up to it, the set up to it, that sort of stuff, and then the story sort of starts to work, and you start to get into what's going on and all that sort of stuff. So I'm hopeful that in the next hour or two that's when the story really comes together, and you start getting a few of those other abilities and stuff that mean that you're not having to rely entirely on creeping through these areas. You can start sort of taking some of the enemies out, or the rats out, as well as you're sort of going, and it just adds that bit of a difference to the gameplay. So from what I've seen, if it's more of the same from the first one, which was a brilliant game to start with. So I'm really hopeful that sort of keeps up, and it's going to be another thoroughly enjoyable game. But from what I've seen, and it's been fantastic so far. And if you're sort of sitting on the fence about it, you've got Xbox, you've got Game Pass, it's free down there. Although it is on the PS5 as well, if you've only got the PS5, but unfortunately you have to pay for it there. So
51, 52 gigs, I want to say, on the Xbox Series X is the only thing that will cost you is the bandwidth.
Well, there you go. But it's going to cost you nothing to buy it. So again, I can't speak highly enough of the original, and this seems to be following in its footsteps. And hopefully it's that it was. I found with the first one, it was almost that perfect length of about a 15-hour game that it wasn't too short that sort of left you wanting more, and it wasn't that sort of game that went for 20-25 hours that
overstayed its welcome.
That overstayed its welcome. That you sort of just go, no, I can't. I just can't do this anymore.
And sorry, just to catch the viewers up from my side, I've put about 3 hours into the first one and about 2 hours into the second one. And this is Bully's point from a few weeks ago, but I really just want to underscore it here in saying, if you're looking at the visuals and worried that it's an escort quest, yes, you are the sister escorting the brother around. There's a little few breaks here and there where you just one or the other. But what I want to underscore completely, just reiterate Bully's point, it is not a bad escort quest. Even though you're escorting someone constantly, it's not the horrible escort quest that you may fear based on just this footage alone. Sorry, Billy, back to you.
No, you're right. And just on that point, I know with a lot of the escort ones, you sort of go, oh, you've got to sort of try and keep them out of the line of sight of the enemies, and you've got to try and worry about what they're doing. It almost removes that to a large degree. You really just need to worry about yourself, and the AI won't pick up on where your younger brother is as you're escorting him around. So if he ends up sort of you find yourself in cover, but he's sort of half out of cover, it's not gonna spoil it for you, and you're not gonna find yourself frustrated that he's doing silly things or running around the front of cover or stuff like that. It's almost like he's a ghost essentially.
Yes,
it's not going to get spotted, and you sort of work your way through that. As long as you're in cover, the system recognises that it's safe and you can keep going.
Yeah, perfect. As I said, I've put about 5 hours into the series, but I am fully hook, line, and sinker in. I'm going to stop playing Requiem. I'm going to go back. I'm going to finish Innocence, and then I'm going to come through and play Requiem. My only hope is that by the time I get back to Requiem, they've put in a 60 frames per second patch. It is noticeably under 60 frames per second currently. That's my only knock on the game, though. And my final thoughts. Over to you, Bully, for final thoughts and any defense of the frame rate.
To be honest, I haven't noticed it that much in the initial stages, and that's probably only because of the pace of it. It's not a fast action sort of game where you're running around from area to area. You're sort of creeping through in the initial stages, so I haven't noticed it as much, and it probably hasn't been as much of an issue. But I can see when you start getting more enemies on screen, there's a lot more of the effects starting to go that might become an issue further into the game. But as I said, I haven't really noticed it. What I have noticed has been a few pop-ins. It's there's a couple of outside areas that have got quite a vista and quite an expansive view off into the distance and the horizon. And there's been a few times where you're sort of walking along and something will just pop up 3 or 4 meters in front of where your character is, despite the fact that you can, in essence, see for a couple of kilometers away. But that's probably only happened a couple of times, and it hasn't really worried me. As you sort of find, the more you get into it, those open area sections decrease, and it's more a bit of a linear working your way through particular sections. So that becomes less of an issue anyway. But as I've said, highly recommend the first. I've seen exactly out of the second one from what I've seen of the first, so I would highly recommend it to check it out, especially if you've played the first one.
Yeah, 2 big thumbs up from me. As I said, 3 hours in the first one, 2 hours in the second one. So I'm by no means a veteran. However, I have loved what I've seen. I fully endorse this product. As I said, a 60 frames per second patch would be nice. However, I did notice a minor personal upgrade you can make is if you do the full Xbox shutdown, then launch it back up and launch Requiem, that frame rate, instead of being 30 frames a second, might be 40 frames a second for the first 2 hours. So there's a minor bit of work you can do yourself to increase that frame rate a little bit, but yeah, it desperately needs a patch from a frame rate snob standpoint, I'll happily say. But with no final thoughts, Bully, we will move on to game 3. You're happy with that?
Before we do, I just wanted to make
mention,
Call of Duty, obviously the new one coming out next week. And for those that want to jump in and have a look, we'll have the link up in the video itself and in the comments below once we've finished and done a bit of editing on it. But we'll have a link for the campaign mode for last year that you and Unky did a review on over a number of episodes, strung it all together. So put that through as a video, and we'll have that linked up for everyone to check out. just to get a bit of a taste, a bit of a sneak peek, and get their mouths wet for the new Call of Duty.
Perfect reminder. Thank you very much, Bully. To reiterate the point, that's right. There's a link up there. There's a link below in the description if you expand that out to last year's Call of Duty campaign review. And tomorrow on the channel, not only do we have the Gotham Knights Let's Install, we will also have the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 campaign that launches a week early. That's tomorrow. We'll have the Let's Install up for the PS4 and the PS5 version tomorrow on the channel. Check out all those links. Thank you very much for the reminder, Bully. Great work. And on to Game 3 this evening, which is some of my all-time favourite. It's The Ascent. And this is The Ascent's recent DLC that is the Cyber Heist. You're looking at the Cyber Heist DLC here. And right off the bat, I've got to say, first off, it is more of the fantastic Ascent. I absolutely love this game. Massive, massive fan of the game here. And I'll note, if you played it originally at launch and then went off the boil, as I did myself, there were frame rate issues, there were a few bugs. It just generally wasn't up at that sort of top tier gameplay. However, post-launch, they've patched it. It's now top tier, and this DLC is also top-notch. One of the key notes to note here on the DLC is they've brought the camera in just a little bit closer, and it really gives, I don't know if you can recall Bully the footage previously, but it used to be out maybe an extra 25% wider. They've just zoomed in about 25%. It's made the character bigger. It's made the detail of everything in the world that little bit crisper. It's just a little bit easier to see what's going on, and the other key visual change here is all the the Cyber Heist DLC. It's all got this green sort of fluoro green look to it, so you know if you're in a new area. As you can see, all that green fluoro, you know it's the DLC. You go back to the main area, it's got that red vibe. But one of the big complaints about the base game DLC was that it was very hard to get enough of the components to unlock the trophy or achievement for fully upgrading a weapon. The DLC has the components you need, bucket loads of them. By the time I finish the DLC, which is very short, it's 2 main missions, and I can't recall right now, it's either 4 or 6 side missions, but by the time you've done those, you have enough components to fully upgrade 4 of the base weapons and unlock that previously hard to obtain trophy that was stopping a few people from the platinum or 1,000 gamer score. So they've fixed a lot of things in this patch. I can't recommend it enough. The one note I'll make is that this fight here you're looking at was me playing. This is the end boss, the final fight. No spoiler alerts. It's fine. It's just fantastic gameplay. But I'll note that this end boss fight is bugged out. I had to complete it 3 times before, after killing the boss here in the arena, that the cutscene would trigger and finish the mission and pop the Chivo. So I had to finish this boss fight 3 times in order to progress past it. That's a bug that I would love for the developers to patch. But the actual gameplay that's in there, ignoring the bugs, is 10 out of 10. I believe DLC was around the $15 Australian mark, and I'm going to say it's value for money. It's more of a game I love. 2 big thumbs up from me, but that's it. Bully, any thoughts on the Ascent DLC before we motor on?
No, I do. As you said, I do recall that it was. It seemed to be a bit further away in the original game, the camera angle, and that looks, from what I can see on the screen there, it looks a hell of a lot better being that little close arena. It just seems to you get a lot more detail out of the character models and the environment and that sort of stuff. So I think it looks a lot more engaging than what it does. My question is, for that $15, you said there was 4 main missions. What sort of length are we looking at for that?
Sorry, it was 2 main missions. It was either 4 or 6 side missions. I think it was about 5 hours for me to wrap up all the DLC. About 5 hours in total. As I said, I did have to replay this final checkpoint boss bit 3 times. So that was a bit extra time just on a glitch, but about 5 hours worth. I think $15, it was quite value for money in my mind. For a game I love, it was more of the same.
Oh, yeah, and if that's... as you said, you've really enjoyed the base game, so more of the same. And it seems like they've released it in pretty good time too, so that sometimes you get the DLC that's 12, 18 months down the track, and by that stage you've sort of moved on from the game and had enough, and it's really a grind or a struggle to get back into it. But they seem to be releasing both the patches and DLC sort of stuff quite fairly regularly anyway. Even at that smaller sort of price point. That sort of keeps you engaged and sort of leaves you hanging for maybe a month or two before you can sort of jump back into it, and you're not sort of losing too much out of being away from it for so long. So that's probably a good idea from them as well.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And sorry, the other thing I should note is that I did the entire DLC as single player. I don't know if you remember, originally the game was promoted very much as an online multiplayer game, but it is also solo, offline solo player, which is how I played it, and it was an absolute treat. So if you're a solo player, if you don't have people available, the DLC is still fantastic and very much solo. Well, 2 massive thumbs up from me. Bully, I hope one day you pick it up, mate, and I'll be glad to walk you through it with my spec'd out to the max character who can destroy anyone at a moment's notice now. It's fantastic.
Oh, well, so there we go. I think, as I said at the top of the show, there's a hell of a lot coming out over the next couple of months. So
very true.
Might be way back on the to-do list or the backlog. So we'll see how we go.
Indeed, the holes open up in my early February calendar, mate. Maybe back in February. All right, game number 4 this evening. Bully, I'll hand it over to you, but I'll note this is my footage of Scorn captured today, and this is only from the first hour, and as I would argue, this is the first puzzle being solved, though the key part of the solution is not in the footage, so no spoilers here. Bully, over to you for the lead investigation of Scorn, recently released Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, look, I'm probably the same as you. I've probably only put about an hour into it. It is... strange is probably the best way to put it. There's no... I'm not sure if you ever played The Witness that came out probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it was, you just got dumped into an area with no explanation, no tutorial, no nothing, just have at it.
Yep.
And that's like this, but in the basically a horror version of that, and a freaky version of you've got no idea what's going on.
I think, Bully, sorry, just a slight aside, I had the exact same experience in Tunic. Sorry, back to you.
Well, maybe I have to mark out of the pause menu in this and see if there's a manual in the read.
What are you saying Tunic had a manual in it?
I think most other people have tried to find that, but managed to find it fairly quickly, seeing as I think it was one of the first things it tells you to do. But this, I found the whole hour and a half that I spent with it weird. It's, as you said, it's a puzzle game, but it's just bizarre.
Yeah.
I think one of the first things that you find something to stick your arm into, and you end up with some sort of pseudo claw-like thing on the end of it that allows you then to sort of interact with some other machines. And
I'll say just on that point, mate, it reminded me very much of Altair getting his, the middle of his finger cut off and then the blade attached for the first time. That's what it reminded me of. Sorry, mate, back to you.
No, yeah, probably to a degree, but it was just bizarre. And then you're sort of wandering around. I spent, as I said, all this time sort of wandering around, flicking switches and sort of, this will do something. No, that doesn't do anything. And you find something else to flick, and no, that doesn't do anything. And I don't know. I sort of expected more of an almost a bit more action in it, and a bit of something else happening in it that would sort of tend it towards not quite up to the Doom style action, but you'd have a bit more action in there with some light puzzle solving. But it seems to me from the get-go that it's puzzles galore, unless it sort of opens up after that couple of hours. But
I 100% back you up on that point, Bully. I walked into this expecting something similar to Doom, and it was totally missed, or as you said, The Witness with a Doom skin on it. So sorry, mate, back to you.
No, that's all right. And I don't know, after that couple of hours that I put into it, I don't know whether it's got enough there to get me back to have another look. I don't know what your thoughts are on it after sort of putting that same amount of time in.
Yeah, I played this first puzzle, and this was sort of the linchpin of the first puzzle, solving this bit. There's obviously many other levers to pull, but this was the crux of the first puzzle. It was very much, I don't even know what the correct name of it is, like, oh God, what is it, the towers, the 3 towers, it's got a name. It's that classic puzzle they put in every game. It's Towers of Hanoi. That's the one I'm looking for. It's very much an elaborate Towers of Hanoi puzzle there. You can see on the wall, and you're moving the claw arm around and stuff. But Tales of Hanoi, you solve it, you get it out. That's essentially the first puzzle. You get it through, you get to an incredibly gory section, but then you solve it and the achievement pops. If you haven't seen that gore and you're squeamish with the stomach, I'd say just don't even download this game. For me, solving the first puzzle was a rewarding experience, yet, to your point, Billy, so gory, I have no intention of going back. I've solved the first puzzle. I think I've seen what it's got to offer, and it's just not a game for me. Even though we are in the spooky season, it's too gory for me. Sorry, Billy, back to you.
Oh, it's not even the gore that does it for me. It's just the obtuse nature of it. I don't need to be handheld through a game, but...
I don't know, mate. You use the manual in Tunic.
Into it, so that might, I don't know. Take from that what you will. But I just... games like this, and The Witness was the same. I tried to put, a lot of people rave about The Witness, and I've tried to put some time into it, and it just doesn't do it for me. If I'm sitting there for hours on end, scratching my head, going, "What am I doing?" I just seem it almost seems to me like a waste of my time.
Yeah, I hear.
And that they're not. If that's how they're going to play the game, that's fine because it'll appeal to certain people and it'll appeal to a certain audience. But for the vast majority of people, if you're gonna do that, it almost feels to me like you're disrespecting my time and making me spend more time in the game just because it's so obtuse and you can't work your way through it. And there's plenty of others, I get that might sit there and go, "What are you talking about? We worked this out pretty quickly. It's not that hard. What are you talking about?" I just need a little bit more. As I said, I don't need my handheld. I just need a little bit more than just dumped in a world and left to your own devices and work out what does what.
That is an absolutely fair call, mate. I completely understand, and very much to your point, I have no intention of going back. It was, yes, very obtuse. I'm proud to solve one, but happy to move on. Are you happy to move on to Game 5, sir?
I certainly am. I think that's over to you.
Beautiful. I will, and look how gory that is. And that's the thing that loses its arm in a minute, but we'll cut off before he gets his arm cut off. All right. Game 5 this evening. Now, this is Unky Dunky's. I think I cut it off. It should have already been up and it's not there. Unky Dunky, I'm sorry, your anniversary present is missing. You'll just have to listen to me. Look at the character on screen. Does he look familiar? That's right. It's Nathan Drake. They've got a Sackboy Nathan Drake, and it's free DLC. Unky, this was the tip for you, mate. Reinstall Sackboy and download for no charge the Nathan Drake character costume there for Sackboy. But it is the same great boy. I got the count now and I forgot it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was 17 pieces of free DLC, all characters from across the PlayStation, ecosystem. There's Aloy's in there, Nathan Drake, as we said. There's Selena from Returnal. There, did I already say Aloy? I think it said Aloy. The other bloke, I'm blanking on his name, Whitaker, I want to say. The voice actor from Aloy, he's in there. There's a bunch of them. God of War is in there. Kratos. I think even his son Loki's in there. Or spoilers. But yes, there's about 17 pieces of free DLC for you. If you've got Sackboy and Big Adventure on PS5, I'll note that I've got the PS4 edition, and that's right, it was one of the free PS5 upgrades. So maybe you could jump on Amazon or eBay and pick up a copy of the PS4 version of Sackboy. This one right here. Pick that up for, I guess, cheap on eBay or Amazon and get the free PS5 upgrade. It's a phenomenal game. It looks great. It loads fast. As I said, free Nathan Drake DLC. Happy anniversary, Unky Dunky. I personally haven't even finished this game. Believe it or not, Billy, it's a platformer and I'm not very good at them. But have you played Sackboy and what are your thoughts on it, mate?
Well, you're probably one step in front of this because there's no manual you have to work through in the game. I don't think I got to finishing it. I picked it up a bit late in terms of probably 3 or 4 months after it came out, and it was sort of in that space of leading into some other stuff that's sort of a sidetrack. But 100% agree with you. It's a fun little platformer. It's not particularly difficult as such, but just some of the elements to it. It's by no means is it a Mario game, but it has it's not without its charm. It's got some interesting bits. It's got some good platforming and puzzling and your collectathon little bits as you sort of go through, and I reckon it's well worth it. I think you can pick, even the PS5 version, I think you can pick up pretty cheap now. So
no, I looked at it and it was still $109 on the PlayStation store.
Oh well, let's PlayStation store.
You're lucky Jim Crine hasn't put it up to, $124.95 at this point. Oh, no, here we go. Look, there it is. Free. Happy anniversary, Unky Dunky. Free Sackboy. I must have clipped it on the end of the footage. Anyway, there it is. Oh, two things I want to know. One, this level is done to David Bowie, and they actually got the legit David Bowie track. I'm blanking on the title name, but it's a David Bowie track, and it was amazing. I'm a huge music rhythm game, and I got through this level without totally dying, so it was a music rhythm level on a platformer. But and also fantastic couch co-op, up to 4 players if you've got 4 DualSense 5s. New controls coming out. We'll get to that shortly when we get to the newsroom, but that's it for Game 5. So, into the overtime. Da-da-da-da! Overtime this week. I want to start off by saying I've been playing Battlefield 2042, and I want to point out this footage too. If you're playing Battlefield 2042, you can pick it up real cheap physically now. Get the DLC, the Battle Pass, $12 or whatever it is. But there's servers online in which you can log in and just shoot up in the air and throw out the resupply. And that's right, you can rank up through that Battle Pass real quick just by resupplying people in hacked servers. It's totally a thing that exists, and you can see it here. People just log in, shoot up in the air, and throw their resupply canisters out. Their score goes through the roof. They level up in the Battle Pass. They also level up their main scorecard for Battlefield. Excuse me, quite the hack. Bully, any thoughts before I hand it over to you for your overtime?
I just thought I was watching something from downtown Baghdad. Whatever floats your boat, I suppose.
Look at this, mate. I earned these, 4 unlocks in about 4 seconds in that hacked server. It was just shoot up in the air, throw out the thing, and then bang, unlocks galore. If you're playing Battlefield, I got to tell you, it's a quick way to get the level up. Sorry, Billy, over to you for your overtime. What have you been playing this week?
Oh, look, it's probably not going to be a surprise to any of our regular viewers. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, again, it's got the hooks in. I've put probably 50-something hours into it. I've sort of veered off the main path of the main campaign, and I've started up into the DLC, which was on sale on Xbox a little while ago, just after they released it on Game Pass. So, been jumping into all that. It's still a fantastic looking game, even though it's 3 or 4 years old now. It's still.
I think it might be 6.
Odyssey? No, that was the last one before Valhalla. Yeah, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But in any event, it still looks fantastic for what it is, and it still plays really well. It's still interesting that the concept of all the ancient Greece and all that sort of stuff with the myths and legends that they've got. They interweave into the story as well. And I thought I'd find myself getting a bit sick of it. This is the second sort of long run through I've done on it. When it came out originally, I put 60 or 70 hours into it, and I thought if I put another 5 or 10 into it, that'll probably satiate the need I had for it, and I'll move on to something else. But it just, for whatever reason, it's just got the hooks back in, and I'm playing through it again. So if you haven't tried it, it's on Game Pass, and I'm pretty sure it's on PS Plus as well. And if it isn't, it's coming shortly, as to my understanding.
Yeah, no, it's included in the Ubisoft Plus or Ubisoft Premium, whatever they call that, which is an additional subscription on PlayStation. So if you subscribe $1 a month for the first month, I think it's maybe $5.76 a month after that for the Ubisoft Plus catalog or whatever. But you're right, mate, it's totally included in there. And 2018 was the original release year.
Yep, there you go. So, I don't know. I don't think I ever subscribed to the Ubisoft Plus. I don't know if that's included in the top tier of the new PS.
No, it isn't. It's definitely a standalone thing on PlayStation. They haven't bundled it in, unfortunately.
As I said, I haven't looked that much into it because I've been playing it on Xbox. But yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Xbox for the win, and that will conclude the overtime, which can only mean one thing, Bully.
Oh, it's
time to kick in a newsroom door.
Well, what are we kicking off with today? News story 1. The PS5 DualSense Edge controller, so the Pro version of the DualSense, launches worldwide on January 26th next year. Your thoughts? You're going to pick it up?
No, unfortunately, there is not enough lawn in the neighbouring 6 suburbs for me to be able to afford this controller. They haven't announced the Australian price, but I went ahead and did the conversion of the US. I believe it was $199 US, and the conversion price was, get me on this one, Billy, but I think it was it $316? I think I put in our chat. $316 for a controller that's sub the Xbox equivalent, which is $199, I believe.
Yeah, and I think it's correct me if I'm wrong, but it's missing some of the features that
two of the triggers.
Two of the triggers or the back
paddles. Sorry, yep.
So it's missing them. Having said that, the DualSense is clearly a superior controller to the Xbox Series X with the with some of the the haptic feedback and the trigger controls and that sort of stuff. But I just can't see how you're justifying whether you want to say it's ergonomics or whatever it is. And I know that there's people out there that will swear by these things and tell you that it makes them a Call of Duty master player and all the rest of it. But essentially you're talking about if you're looking at Australian dollars, you're looking at in the realm of 3 to 3.5 times the price of a standard DualSense, and even cheaper if you can get it on sale. I just can't see. I can't see for the life of me who this is appealing to.
Well, I think it's appealing to the same person, the PSVR 2 and The Last of Us Part 1. Anki, where are you?
Well, I don't know. Hopefully he's off getting some anniversary gifts. He might have a voucher for the DualSense Edge controller for when it releases.
He may do, but for my money, no sale, not a chance. I am forking over 315 odd Australian dollars for this controller. They can just sit and spin, as far as I'm concerned. Even if this was equally priced, call it $195. Even if they price it $195 Australian, missing those 2 back paddles, forget about it. Call me when they've got version 2 of this controller with 4 back paddles and it's sub 200 Australian dollars, and then 100% I'm there. But until then, nah, mate, this is sitting up there on my wish list with the Tesla, and I don't think it's going to become a reality.
Well, so, I mean, this is the other thing with it as well, is when you actually look at it objectively, the DualSense, the bog standard DualSense, if that's what you want to call it, the base level one, it's actually a really good controller. I've never had
best controller ever, hands down, no question.
Like ergonomically, it's fantastic, and it might be different for people with different size hands, or how they grip it or whatever. And I get all that, but for me, it holds well. It's got a good weight to it. It doesn't feel flimsy, but it's not too heavy that you start getting tired in the arms when you're playing. As I said before, the haptic feedback and the trigger features and all that sort of stuff that are in the base level sets it far and above any other controller on the market.
Definitely.
Right now, and I just don't see the need, as I said, to drop somewhere between 3 and 3.5 times the price on something that I don't think is going to give you too much more than what you've got anyway.
No, it's not. I do not see a value proposition here other than a ludicrous overcharging by Jim Ryan. It's great in concept, but no, I think they've absolutely missed on the delivery here for this one. January 26th does nothing for me. Maybe if they had have released it now and then, in a month, given us a Black Friday sale and brought it down to somewhere in the realms of reasonable, maybe then I would have started to get a little itchy, but no, it's nowhere near getting my wallet to open, and I take it it's not getting your wallet to open either, Bully.
Nah, not a chance. Not a chance. I'll spend the money buying another couple of controls to sit up there on the bench and, add to the couch co-op on the rare games that you've got.
Yeah. Although it might come in handy on the Ascent, but that'll do it for Story 1. Story 2 this evening is from The Guardian, and it starts off as an insult, so brace yourselves. Apparently, it's an insult to video game voice actors when you define one thing in a contract and they misread it and then get all bent out of shape. Bully, what are the details?
Look, to be honest with you, I don't necessarily disagree with what they're saying to a point. Now, if they're signing up contracts and they're aware of what they're getting paid going into it, I understand that, and they understand what the demands and the time that they're to put into it. And I think the example they gave was one of the voice actors in the UK was paid $4,000 for what ultimately was for the Bayonetta series that required her to put in dozens and dozens of hours into voice acting. And then you compare that to some of the Hollywood names that they've got over the years, like we talk Keanu Reeves and the ilk that have done, obviously Cyberpunk, that they're getting paid $100,000 to do 2 or 3 hours work, and the disparity there. So from that point of view, I can see 100% where they're coming from. But where the argument, I guess, sort of falls down is if they know that going into it, that they know that the time they're going to have to put into it, and this is what they're going to get paid. Well, if you're not happy with it, don't sign the contract to start with. I can't see how you know going into it with your eyes wide open what you're getting,
Yep.
and then you whinge about it at the end of it. If that was what you're getting offered, and you say, hey, this is not good enough, this is terrible, and all the rest of it, and you're not getting hired because you're not agreeing to being underpaid, well, that's an entirely different story. And I know there's been some others that have come out in support and sort of said, yeah, you know, most people sort of think with voice acting, it's a couple hours work and you get $4,000 and you walk away and it's, a day or two's work, and that's great pay. But the reality is that they're sort of talking about, well, that's $4,000, but then you've got to pay tax out of that. You've got to pay your agent's fees out of that. You've got to pay, your travel costs out of that, and all that sort of stuff, which dwindles the amount down again. And you're putting in instead of 1 day's work or 2 days work, it's a week's work or 2 weeks work, and that's what they're sort of getting paid at it. And it's also spasmodic based on whether they can get work at a particular time, or who's hiring for voice acting sort of stuff in your area, or whether they're going to remake the game that you've just, or make a sequel to a game you've just done. So I can sort of see both sides of the ledger, but agree that if in my opinion, if you're putting in that amount of time, and we're talking multiple dozens of hours, you probably should be getting paid more than a couple of $1,000s.
Well, did you see the Bloomberg? Jason Schreier covered it, and then VGC backed him up that they also saw the contract. And from what I understand from reading their articles, is that she was offered $4,000 per session, and then the contract went on to stipulate 4 or 5 sessions. So they were, to me, it just read as though she had misread the contract, or her agent had misinformed her as to the details of the contract. She's grabbed one little nugget and ran with it, but I don't even think it was a true account of what the contract was. I think she was bent out of shape over getting offered what she perceived to be a low amount, but you're a voice actor. Get a better agent. I don't know. I don't feel it's for me to comment at all whether that $4,000 is appropriate. The only thing I will comment on is if the work in the industry is sporadic, if the work in the industry is known to be hard to get, sporadic, and then short term, well, you should know that going into the industry. Don't enter the industry if you don't want to work under those conditions. And to your point, Billy, if you're not happy with the contract, don't sign it. I don't know, man. For me, it's a bit of buyer beware. If you saw the contract and didn't like it and passed, well, then shut your mouth and move on. Go find another gig. I don't know why she's stirring up all this trouble, to be honest.
Oh, I think what I sort of got out of it more than that was that and you could, as you said, you could make the argument one way or another about who's right with the contract or what the ins and outs of the contract are. I think what they were sort of getting at, or she was getting at in particular, and the others that have come out to support her, is that the value of the video game industry has grown exponentially in the last 10 to 15 years from what it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And their argument is, as voice actors, that their pay comparative to that hasn't gone up in that same commensurate sort of level. So, to that, I can sort of say, yeah, I understand that, but I'll go back to the original point that if you're not happy with the contract, don't sign it. If you're not happy with the conditions of it, or the pay of it, or what's required out of you for it, or there's not something in there that's, you go into it thinking it's 5 or 6 hours work, but it ends up being 30 or 40 hours work. If that's not written into the contract, that there's payment to be made above and beyond what the expectation of the original job is, then I can't see how you're complaining about it. And to your point, if it's a matter that it's been conveyed to her poorly, or she hasn't read the contract properly, well, that's on her agent.
Yeah.
And it's not on the it's not on the game company or the developer that's making the game.
Yep.
It's back on the agent that hasn't read it and conveyed it to her properly, and she's gone on thinking this is how much time and effort I've got to put in for this amount of pay, and then at the end of it, it hasn't equaled out to what she thought.
Yep.
So, look, I sort of think yes, should the pay level go up equivalent to what the games are making and how much money's in the industry now, 100% I do. But by the same token, I've always fallen back on that. If you're not happy with it, don't sign the contract. Go and
Bingo.
find a job, or go and go and find another industry to work in, or another company that wants a voiced actor that's going to pay you more.
Correct. No one's holding a gun to anyone's head to sign any contract. So if you don't like the contract, don't sign it and move on. I don't understand why you would rally the community, the gaming community, to boycott a game, boycott Bayonetta 3 because she wasn't happy with the contract she was offered. But that's totally ignoring everybody else that has agreed to their contract and has shown up and has put in the work and then has released a game. Like, I just think it's outrageous for her as one member of a team of presumably hundreds of people involved in all aspects of getting this game made. I think it's outrageous for one person not happy with their contract to negatively impact the tens, if not hundreds, of other people impacted by her demand for a boycott. I just think that's so outrageous in this day and age. Like, yeah. So if you don't like it, don't sign the contract, move on. But don't cause trouble for other people. That's insanity in my mind. Well, I don't see who she's helping.
Well, not only that, but it's almost going against her point that that she should be paid more for what she's doing, because what she's ultimately doing by saying boycott the game is taking the money out of other people's pockets and the food out of their mouths.
Yep.
That have contracts that are tied to performance-based or sales-based, or that sort of stuff. So they put it all in all this time and effort with the expectation to sell a certain amount of copies because of how hard they've worked, and someone's trying to come in and scuttle it. All of a sudden, their pay packet that I'm just pulling figures out here, but if they're expecting $1 million pay packet based on a certain amount of sales, and you're saying go out and boycott it, and now the sales are a quarter of what you expected because everyone's boycotting it, and now you're paid $50,000 because you haven't hit your mark. That's 3, 4, 5 years of your life down the drain. Where you're getting paid a pittance, and then you got to turn around to, your family, or you're renting a house, or you bought a house with a mortgage, or or
you got to tell your kids, sorry, no university for you. We can't afford it.
Well, and that's it. And there's other people in the industry that are working their backsides off, and we know that.
Yeah.
To put out a product, and a lot of their pay, they do it on good faith, or they have it written into their contract that it's performance based and it's sales based. So, I think it's pretty average move to make. Calling for a boycott, and you put the contract over to the side for 1 minute. I think that's pretty ordinary, because ultimately you cost him. It's not that you're costing the company millions and millions of dollars, which you may end up doing, but you're actually costing Joe Blow going to work, just trying to earn a living. That's ultimately who you're costing, because the money's going to come from somewhere. The company's still going to get their
the company are getting their end no matter what.
100%. So they're always going to get their money. They just won't dole out the bonuses. So you're dipping into the pockets of some other poor worker that's put the time and the effort in. I just can't agree with that one bit. If you're not happy, you're not happy. That's fine. Don't make other people lose out because you're bitter, twisted, didn't read your contract properly. You've got an agent. I don't know.
Bingo. I agree completely. So I think the headline is correct. There was an insult there, but I think they've attributed it to the wrong parties. Anyway, story 3 this evening, Silent Hill remake from GameSpot. Bully, there was a big announcement today. What happened?
There was. So the Silent Hill, well, there's a number of projects, but the headline of that is Silent Hill 2 is getting remade after, I know we've been sort of clamoring on the old PT for I'd have to say 7 or 8 years now at this point, that we were hopefully going to get a new Silent Hill out at some point, but I suppose this is where we're going to have to sit for the time being. We've got the Silent Hill 2 remake coming out that was revealed today, and then
Sorry, mate, can I just jump in quickly and ask you, what is your history of the Silent Hill franchise, and does this excitement, or does any of the announcements today sort of specifically speak to your gaming history?
Not particularly. I was a bit more of a resident. It was almost like they were playing off against each other in the late 80s, late 80s, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
They were almost playing off against each other as the premier sort of horror type genre games, especially on the PlayStation. And I was more of a Resident Evil player. I did play the first Silent Hill one, and I know everyone talks about the fog in the town as being, almost like a character in it, that it was so essential to the game. We all know that was because of the
essential to the RAM.
the development limitations, that you couldn't actually display a greater area, so they had to force that in. But for me, that almost detracts from it.
Yeah.
To a large degree, I hate games like that where you can't really see what's coming, or what. Like, I get the jump scares and it assists with all that sort of stuff, but when you end up wandering around a fog, that you almost sort of go, oh, I'm almost losing myself, sort of going, well, do I need to go here or here, or where have I come from? Oh, now I'm getting all sort of twisted around a bit. That sort of was one of the things that sort of dissuaded me from playing Silent Hill. What about you with your history?
Yeah, no, mate. Personally, I could never get into them. I've tried playing multiple iterations of Silent Hill on multiple consoles, but to your point, mate, I don't think I've ever passed the 20-minute mark on any one of the titles. It was just a bit too much nonsense for me. You know me, mate. I'm a big minute-to-minute gameplay guy. Give me something like Roller Dome. Give me something like Tony Hawk's. Action, action, action. Input, output, constant. That's what speaks to me. So the Silent Hill franchise has never done it to me, not in the first 20 minutes of one of their games. Maybe deeper in, one of them really fires up and gets action-oriented, but I've never gotten that far. So, no, today's announcement to me, I'm like, yeah, if you're a Silent Hill fan, I'm glad for you, but personally, it's done nothing for me. Certainly no pre-order dollars have been allocated.
No, but I know there's well, I suppose it's one of those things that we're going to have to wait and see, I guess, because there's been games like this in the past where there's been a very vocal crowd that has been asking for and demanding, either remakes or new games in the series, that when they're actually put out and released, turn out to be a vocal minority, and they don't sell that well. And everyone likes to have those rose-coloured glasses about how good things were back when they were, younger or teenagers or whatever it is. But the proof will be the pudding, I guess, is into what their sales are at the end of the day, and whether they can revitalise a franchise, or whether it's one of those things that there's not enough. There's a little bit of interest, but not enough to make it sustainable in the long run, I guess. So.
Time will tell. My fingers are crossed. Like, I would love for them to remake this game and have it a little bit more actiony to satisfy people like me, to give me an entry point into the series and maybe expand out from there. But no, for me, the big takeaway from today was, if you're putting a video on YouTube, don't have any smoke effects because the compression algorithm eats up everyone's face and you can't see any of the people on stage for the smoke. But that's just me as a production guy. Side note.
No, that's right. And just before we jump off this news story, there was a couple of other things that were sort of tied onto the back end of that.
Please, yes.
Silent Hill Townfall, which is a new game, but there was no gameplay, really, footage of that. So I sort of don't know what how that ties into everything or what it is.
Sorry, can I throw the anchor down for just 1 second? Note that the Silent Hill 2 remake is being done by Bloober Team, who fill in the blanks here, but Blair Witch, The Medium, and then there was two others. Oh, I bet it's written here somewhere. But my point is, the developers behind the Silent Hill 2 remake have done nothing in my mind that's over like a 7, if I'm being generous. So I'm not holding my breath for this remake. How about you, Billy, on the developer front?
I'm not so sure. Layers of Fear is one of the other ones that they that they put out. But yeah, okay. I'm not so much that I would be concerned about the developers. I'm just more concerned about, like I said before, I'm just not sure I've got the interest in it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
I know that'll probably offend a few people, but each to their own. It's I went down a different path with Resident Evil, and they had a little bit of a hiatus as well, but they've come back strong as well.
Yeah.
And you've probably got more out of the Resident Evil franchise than you had of Silent Hill anyway. So,
and I think take away all the recent success of Resident Evil, and this Silent Hill remake never happens. This is Konami trying to get those Capcom dollars, I think.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you've seen with the 2 and 3, well, probably to a greater extent, the number 2 remake out of Resident Evil, and then certainly 7 and then 8 have been highly commended when they've gone to the first-person view, and the storytelling and the gameplay in both those games have been fantastic. So I don't disagree that they've sort of looked at that and gone, oh, there's money to be made here. Let's jump on the back end of it, which is funny because they've also looked at one of the other things that they've announced is a sequel to the 2006 original Silent Hill movie.
Yes.
And then there's a couple of other little things there. There's a Silent Hill F, which is set in the 1960s horror spin-off from Silent Hill. As I said, I think they're sort of looking at maybe with a bit of jealousy at Capcom and what they're doing with the Resident Evil series and think, yep, let's jump on the back of that. But from what we've seen from Konami over the last probably close to a decade now, I'm not holding out a lot of hope. I don't have a lot of faith in them as a developer anymore. And
no, ever since they assholed Kojima, no.
Well, even before then, I think they were sort of, they weren't really doing a lot. They've got a lot of IP sitting there, unused and untapped, and I would have thought, in my opinion, and this is probably come from someone, as I've said, that's not a big Silent Hill fan, that there's probably a number of other IP that they could have gone to before this that would generate a fair bit more interest, and in the end, probably a fair bit more sales, I would have thought. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I agree with you completely, mate. I will be very interestedly watching the release week of this and the NPD numbers to see what comes out because, to your earlier point, mate, I very much think this is a silent minority making way too much noise to get this to happen. I'm not sure the sales will be there, especially as you said that. What was the hiatus? How long has it been? 20 years since the last big release of the game? Like, I don't know how many fans are left for a day one purchase. I can't imagine.
Well, and I mean that's the other thing is we're talking about mid. I'd have to say late 20s, late double O's, early 10s, I think. So we're looking at over a decade. And from my understanding, and have a look at some of those later releases anyway, the 1 and 2 were considered pretty good, and everything released after that was considered pretty much garbage. So
yeah,
I don't know. As you said, you're looking at the better part of almost 2 decades since a decent Silent Hill release. So I don't know where the fandom's coming from, and I certainly don't know where the hype's coming from and the push for a new one. So,
other than Konami's marketing department, mate, I agree with you. It might be a bit more quiet on the ground than they suggest it is. And dare I suggest we move on to story 4, sir?
Shoot.
All right, here it is. One of my big remaining high watermarks for the year is, of course, Callisto Protocol. Now, IGN here give us the headline. Callisto Protocol confirms it's not delayed and promises a 60 frames per second performance mode. Bully, why on earth would they need to go out this week and state that, do you think?
Nobble the sales of some of the current games that are coming out, I would have thought.
It says not one coming out tomorrow that's markedly less than 60 frames per second, according to the rumour mill, is there?
I think there was one that came out today, and there's one that's coming out tomorrow.
Who knew?
2 in 2 days that are running at pretty woeful.
Sub 60.
Well, sub 60, but I would have thought, I get it if it was on the old PS4 or the Xbox One, you could sort of make an argument, yep, that's what you've got to sort of get, or you've got some downgraded visuals, whatever it is. But the fact that you can't get to 60 even on a performance mode with both the new PS5 and the Xbox Series, I'm a bit bewildered, to be honest with you. I know, and I'm not defending the new Gotham game, but I know that was originally slated for a PS4 release as well. And whether they've had development issues trying to cross that over to the PS5 and the Series X, I don't know. And Callisto Protocol, as to my understanding, is only on the next gen or current gen.
Correct, yeah. PS5 and Xbox Series XS exclusive, the old Callisto Protocol. And yes, backing up your point, mate, Gotham Knights was originally PS4, Xbox One, and yes, arguably that's where they came in and set the bar pretty low. But they eliminated that. Was it 8 months ago they came out and said, no, we're ditching last-gen support. It's PS5 and Xbox Series X exclusive, but even in the month since, they haven't been able to get the performance up over allegedly 30 frames a second, which is just outrageous. But, as I said, check out the channel tomorrow. I am waiting for that knock on the door from Amazon, so we will have the Let's Install tomorrow. If there is a day one patch with the performance mode, you'll be able to check it out right here tomorrow morning. Bully, any further thoughts on this article, or should we move on?
No, I think the old Callisto Protocol developers have stuck the knife in far enough, and we can move on.
It's a thing of beauty. I love it. They're known for their gore and horror, and dare I say, they just ripped the face off 2 production leads and other companies. All right, wrapping up, as we always do, the news of the week is the Game Informer's list of upcoming games for release this week. However, of course, now we're doing the show on Thursday, so a lot of these have come to pass already. Bully, jump in should you have anything to say, otherwise I'm going to fly through it. This week, A Plague Tale Requiem on October 18th was PS5, Xbox Series XS, Switch, PC. We discussed it already. 2 big thumbs up from us, and an 8 from Game Informer. And then also October 18 with Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, PS5, PS4, Xbox XS, One, and PC. Now, I know nothing on this. Sorry, Billy, just a quick check-in. Do you know anything on this? Good, bad, thumbs up, indifferent? Do we know anything about Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed?
Yeah, so from what I've seen, it's very almost Fortnite-esque with its graphics, but it's the old isometric 4v1. So one of you play, 4 of you play the Ghostbusters. But I think there's also another, and I haven't had time to check, but I think there's another almost a campaign style part to it as well, where it's sort of co-op that almost looks like that sort of Left 4 Dead / Back 4 Blood sort of style gameplay, where it's co-op. You're going in as a group and trying to grab the trying to eliminate all the ghosts. So I hold tight on this one, but it looks okay. I guess it just sort of depends on how it plays.
Now, does this tie into the all-female cast Ghostbusters reboot from 2016, I want to say?
No, not in the slightest. So it's got all the old original 1 and 2 from the 80s characters, your Dan Aykroyds and whatnot. So
what you're saying is we've got half a chance at a laugh in this then? All right, moving on. Them's Fighting Herds coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Also released October 18. I know nothing on this one. Bully, anything?
2D fighter with some crazy animals. Looks bizarre, but might be worth a look, I suppose.
All right, now, if it comes to Game Pass, I'll be all about it. But until then, I say wait for it. Then, coming finally to PC was Uncharted, The Legacy of Thieves Collection. Now, Bully, is that Uncharted's 1, 2, and 3, I think?
No, that's the 4 and the latest 2 in the series.
I see, I had that backwards. My apologies. That was October 19th, being yesterday. And from the articles I've read online, apparently a phenomenal port. Looks and plays phenomenally. If you're a PC player and yet to play either Uncharted 4 or The Lost Legacy, they are 2 stellar games. I love both the games. Can't speak to the PC port, but apparently they're phenomenal. Then we have... Bully, do you want to take a crack at this one for me?
But Batora?
Sure, Batora, Lost Heaven, PS5, Xbox Series XS, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, October 20, and I know nothing.
I think it's a bit of a top-down indie RPG is, I think, what they're describing it. It sort of looks a little Diablo-ish.
Okay.
So it might be worth, depending on the price point. I haven't checked the price point, but depending on that, it might be worth a look, I reckon. It
does sound like it'll be up my alley. Should it appear in Game Pass or PS Plus, I'll be all about it. Then we have, now this one I can say with great certainty Unky Dunky will be reporting in on next week. This is Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope coming to the Switch today. Bully, have you got any info on this one other than I would love to get my hands on it at some point?
No, I played the first one, loved the first one. It's got all the Mario characters with the XCOM turn-based strategic sort of gameplay as you move through levels. Fantastically well done. I think a lot of people when the first one came out were thinking, what is going on with this? Turned out to be a fantastic game, and from what I've seen of this one, it looks just as good and expanded in basically every sense of the word. So highly anticipating this one.
Now, in anticipation for tonight's story, I jumped on one of my boys' Switches and pulled up the play clock, for the first Mario and Rabbids. And I just love this, that their playtime on the first one was 64 hours. So it was a Mario 64 from my boys on the first one, or Mario and Rabbids, 64 hours into the first one. Absolute massive hit. If you've got young kids, the first game in the series worked well. I can only assume this one will be great as well. And I myself put 10 to 12 hours in it and really enjoyed it, but got pulled off for some reason. Bully, you loved it though as well, didn't you? The original.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. Big thumbs up from here. We think you'll love it. And then we have Second Extinction coming to the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC. Bully, anything on Second Extinction?
So this was on, I don't know what the Game Pass version is, early access or game preview, I think they call it.
Yeah, game preview, yep.
Hopefully the full version will come out on Game Pass as well, but it looks like a bit of a co-op style shooter with dinosaurs. So throw back to the old Turok games from the N64 era, and that's sort of what it looks like. Basically, a fall of civilization, and somehow or some way the dinosaurs have come back and they've taken over the world. So, from what I've seen, some fairly interesting enemy character design and some massive dinosaurs that you got to fight. So, if you can get it for free on Game Pass, I reckon it's at least worth a couple of hours just to check it out and see how you go.
Perfect. I love it. Then we have the Jackbox Party Pack 9, PS5, Series XS, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, iOS, and Android. Man, they've hit it everywhere. Also, October 20th. Now, I haven't looked at the Jackbox Party Pack 9. However, I have spent many an hour with the Jackbox Party series, local co-op style. And I've got to say, I've always enjoyed the Jackbox series. If you've got a bunch of friends around and maybe a slab of drinks, this one's 2 big thumbs up from me. Bully, any history with the old Jackbox Party collections?
Not the Party Pack ones, but I remember back in the mid-90s, there was the Jack Attack or something like that was on the PC, and it was exactly the same thing. It was basically a party game that you all sort of sat down and played.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of where it gets its roots from, and that's where I've played it, but I haven't seen, or I haven't really had any interest in any of these new ones, no.
Fair enough. The only thing I'll throw out there is that these are fantastic games for streaming. So if you're not sure, if you jump on Twitch, I bet you'll have people streaming it and you can participate with your own phone. So if the stream is playing it on Twitch, you can just pull up I believe it's a website. You just go to a website, put in the little code, and you can play along. So you can play along for free if you tune into some Twitch streams to get a feel for it before you lay out any cash, if that's the way you're thinking. Next up, Vampire Survivors on PC. I know nothing else PC, so I'll move straight along to Gotham Knights, coming out tomorrow. PS5, Xbox Series X, S, and PC. Apparently a low frame rate, but I'm still keen for it, and the install will be on the channel tomorrow. And Bully, hopefully your thoughts on it next week as well, mate, by the sound of it.
Yeah. Hopefully Delivery Man's knocking on my door as well, but I know that it's had its knockers coming up to release, but I'm still fairly keen from it.
Well, off the cuff, mate. Come on, give me a score. Where do you think we'll be sitting next week after having gone hands on? Throw a score out there, mate. What are we thinking?
I'll go an average Metacritic score of 40.
Whoa!
But I'm going to say my personal opinion would be I'd give it a 90.
Whoa, big call. I'm going to go Metacritic score of 75, personal score 6 out of 10. That's what I'm anticipating.
I just reckon the haters are going to hate on this one, and they're going to jump on Metacritic and drag that right down.
They will, but from memory, they don't really rate the user ratings. It's all about the outlets, which traditionally don't get too fanboy and give somewhat reasonable scores.
Oh, I still have it in the back of my head that even some of the proper reviewing agencies are going to give it a kick on the way through. So
Okay.
that might drop the score a little bit.
Fair enough. There are a lot of disgruntled people in the community at the minute. Why not take a crack at a recent release? And then also tomorrow is new Tales from the Borderlands. It's coming out everywhere. I'm not going to say it, but personally, I'm not a huge Tales of the Borderlands fan. I played the original Telltale once. I think maybe I got 2 chapters in and moved on, and I've got no desire to go back. How about you, Bully? What's your history with Tales from the Borderlands?
Yeah, look, I mean, when I think of Borderlands, it's the gameplay, it's the action, the guns, all the rest of it. The story's more of a side sort of thing. I didn't play the original one, and I probably, I reckon the Wolf Among Us was the only Telltale game that I saw through to the end. I've tried with the Batman one. I've tried with the
what about the original, The Walking Dead?
Yeah, tried with The Walking Dead. I've tried
Season 1 of The Walking Dead. You didn't see it through?
No.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it just the gameplay. There's not a lot of gameplay into it to start with, and then the story just. I know a lot of people rave about it, especially the series 1 of the Walking Dead, but it just didn't really get me, and I just didn't. The
Fair enough.
style, all that sort of stuff just didn't get me. I know that they've redone the engine since they've sort of reformed, so we'll see how we go with the new one. But I'm not. It's probably not up my alley. But I reckon that if you've had any interest in the past, it's probably something worth it if you can get it on the cheap.
Yes, great point, mate. Yeah, for me, I'd play it to your point, mate. If it was in Game Pass, I'd be all about it. But I don't see myself shelling out any money for it off the bat tomorrow. And finally, this week, Persona 5 Royal, PS5, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, getting a mighty 9.25 from Game Informer. Bully, Persona, I think you hate the series and will never touch it again. Is that wrong?
Oh, I think Game Informer is a smack about the head. If that's not a 10 out of 10, I've never seen one.
Perfect. I love it. 2 big thumbs up for Bully. For me, not big Persona guy. I don't know. It just didn't rattle my cage. What can I say? That'll do it for the news this week. Bully, where does that bring us to?
That certainly, I reckon, would have to bring us to the Standoff.
That would be everyone's favourite segment, if I'm not mistaken.
Who will fight?
Who will fight this week? Bully, over to you, sir.
So, obviously, we just checked out the new game releases, and we've got Gotham Knights coming out tomorrow. And based on that one, we're having a look at what is the best Batman game ever released. This one doesn't have Batman, but we'll push through with that. Well, it doesn't officially have Batman. He might come out in the back end of the story, but...
I'm telling you, mate, 6 months DLC, $30, and Batman will be yours in Gotham Knights. wait, it's on a Sony platform. It'll be $60 in 5 months.
Well, if you can't wait 5 or 6 months to play Batman, check out any of these in the Standoff, and you can play Batman right now.
Perfect. Entry 1 this evening is... a lot of people's favourite Arkham Asylum. Bully. How good was this?
Oh, it came out of nowhere too. I don't think there was a lot of people that, when it got announced and released, there wasn't really a lot of hype. We haven't had any really good super hero games for a long time, and certainly not any decent Batman games.
Can I jump in right there and just say, for my money, when this came out on the 360, I downloaded the demo. I played it for about 2 minutes and was so offended by Batman's cape that I stopped playing it. That's right. I was on the wrong side of history on that one. Sorry, Billy, back to you.
Oh no, as I said, we've never seen anything like it, and the fact that yes, he's powerful and he sneaks around and all the rest of it, but he's fallible as well. He's not like your Superman where he's just going to go in and take everyone out and all the rest of it. He can get taken down, he can get hit, and I still think one of the best parts of this game is the degradation of his suit over the period that you're playing.
Yes.
So it starts off pristine, clean, and the more damage you take as you're playing through it, the more times you die, the more the suit rips, the more the cape rips, and you start by the end of it. If you've died enough times and been hit enough times, there's holes in it. It's ripped at the ends. You know, the suit's ripped apart and all the rest of it. I don't think I've ever seen it. It's not really a game mechanic, but just an inclusion in a game like that lends to how you've actually played the game. And
I want to jump in on that point, mate. I agree with you 1,000%. One of the best visual representations to the gamer of the progress of the character's emotional state via their suit. It's fantastic. And I've got no idea, pure speculation from me, but I want to say this was based on John McClane's singlet from the original Die Hard. Sorry, Billy, back to you.
Well, quite possibly. But I think that's, from my opinion, that's almost emblematic of this game, is that just a little, it's a very tight game. It's not, there's some little open world, you wouldn't even call them open world areas. They're just sort of areas within the Arkham Asylum itself that you can sort of have a bit more movement around, but it's sort of ties it all into that game, that just saw those little bits and pieces in the game, like the cape and the outfit, and you know, you can see like you said, the way he's slowly breaking down mentally, having to deal with the Joker and all those different characters and all the rest of it. Just those little touches through the game is absolutely phenomenal. When you're backtracking over different areas and to see how they've changed and the things they've added into it, and that tell part of the story as well. As I said, I didn't expect a lot coming into it, and was absolutely blown away within minutes of playing it, cape aside.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and check my achievements, but I want to say I played the demo when this came out, and then I didn't get back to it for maybe 1 or 2 years until I played it, and then I played it and realised how wrong I was and how absolutely phenomenal, groundbreaking this game was. Gosh, I want to say there are around 350 Riddler challenges. Billy, what's your memory of the number of Riddler challenges in this game?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember. This had the least amount. I know that because you know, some of the other ones that we'll talk about shortly were getting into obscene numbers. So I didn't think this one was unmanageable compared to some of the others, but certainly you were spending a lot of time in the back end of the game trying to chase those down if you want the 1,000 gamer score or the platinum.
Yeah, well, for me, I think I did 4 of the Riddler challenges and then just went, nope, and moved on with my life. But from memory, and Unky will correct me next week, I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure Unky said his 1,000 or 100, I should say, % of this game on multiple platforms. So he's done all the Riddler challenges in it at least twice, but I think maybe he's done it 3 times. Phenomenal effort, Unky. Tip of the cap to you, and tip of the cap to Arkham Asylum. But, Bully, what's game 2 this week?
Well, game 2, we'll just skip ahead to the next one, I guess. Arkham.
Oh, sorry, mate. We're not finished. I can go back. My apologies.
No. I was saying Arkham City, the next one in the line.
Oh, I've just flicked to Arkham City now, my friend, and that's on screen. And this one moved it from the, Arkham Asylum, which was just the grounds of the asylum itself, and then opened it up to the full city. And this is where the series really started to speak to me, because I'm a huge open world fan. And this was a Batman open world, and it lit me up left, right, and center. I loved it. What was the character increase? I can't remember now, but I want to say they doubled the amount of enemies from 1 to 2 in this. What's your recollection, Billy?
Yeah, a lot more enemies, and when we talk about open world, it's for those that haven't played it, it's getting a bit long in the tooth now, but it's not an open world where you're flying around Gotham and there's enemies and bad guys and villains that are mixed in with Joe Public and all the rest of it. Basically, the entire city's been locked down, and it's essentially, in essence, one big massive version of a prison. For one word. Yep. Where you've got all the bad guys locked into this one area, and then you sort of work your way around it. They used a lot more in this one of the height and the depth. So there's levels that are a lot higher up, and then there's also underground levels, and you can go through a few more buildings and stuff like that are included in this one, and it had some pretty good DLC on the back end as well. Oh,
Selena Kyle, what was she? An extra, I want to say that was like an extra 5 or 6 hours of gameplay they gave us with the Catwoman DLC. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, and then not even on only the gameplay with the story part of that, but there was also the added collectibles and stuff. If that was your thing,
Oh, that's true. Yes.
that you got the added bonus to that as well, and plus being able to traverse the area in a different way rather than sort of scaling up and using your cape to sort of glide around everywhere. It was a bit of a different way of playing it as well.
Oh, the grapple hook with the acceleration launch thing. That was phenomenal.
Yeah. But just changed it just enough to keep it fresh and
Yeah.
give you a bit more of out of the game as well, I think.
And of course, a quick callback to last week's, I think it was Standoff, where we had best boss fights. This game is the one that had the Mr. Freeze fight in it that we glowed so heavily about previously on the Standoff. No more points on Arkham City, sir?
No, move on.
All right, then. Everyone's non-favourite Arkham Origins. What were your thoughts on this one?
I'll defend it. I actually really enjoyed it. I know it cops a bit of heat, but and it's the only one of the ones we've spoken about so far that weren't made by Rocksteady. I don't understand the hate on it. To me, it had more of, exactly. It sounds corny, but the origins of Batman. So he starts off as the detective, and he starts off going to crime scenes and investigating how things have happened and trying to work out that sort of stuff. I actually think they did it really well, breaking it down to that basic level of this is how he starts off before he becomes this superhero that everyone knows about that takes on the whole city and all the bad guys and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I don't see it as inferior to any of the other Arkham games, even though I know Rocksteady would like to pretend that it doesn't actually exist.
No, mate, jokes aside, I absolutely love this game, and I felt it was in keeping with the other three in the series. I absolutely enjoyed it as well, mate. This game is a phenomenally enjoyable experience. I really enjoyed it, and to your point, mate, they did expand the character a lot more in it, which was very enjoyable. And is this the one that opens with the reveal to the public that Bruce Wayne is Batman? Is that this one, or have I got it confused?
Oh, I can't remember
I want to say it's this game that opens with Bruce Wayne walking in, and then one of the bad guys just calls him out. Hey, you're Batman. They just start beating on him. It's phenomenal. All right. Sorry, mate. No. I was going to wrap up for Origins. I enjoyed it, jokes aside. But that brings us to Arkham Knight, which is Rocksteady returning to the fold with it. Bully, tell us things.
And for those that are getting sick of this series, this will be the last one we talk about. But, look, again, this is another one that got a bit of hate. It basically expands out to the whole of Arkham at this point that you're sort of traversing. Again, I really enjoyed it. Even the Batmobile segments that everyone sort of derides, I actually didn't mind them. I didn't think they were overbearing. It broke up the on-foot gameplay a little bit.
Yes.
And I didn't think, yes, it was probably, was it required? No, but did it give you a bit of variation in what ended up being a pretty long game anyway? I actually didn't mind it, sort of break it up a bit. When you talk about the Riddler trophies before, I found every Riddler trophy in this game, and it just...
Whoa, what was the count?
Oh, it was in the... I'll find out for you while we're talking, but...
Yeah, and I'm wildly guessing here. It's been a long time since I looked it up, but I'm pretty sure Arkham Asylum, maybe it was City, had in the mid-300s. I want to say this one clocked 500 Riddler trophies. I'm not positive on it, but that's my memory. And while you look that up, I'll just say that in defense of this game and the Batmobile sections, I don't remember whether it launched with it, but by the time I got around to playing with it, I was 2 or 3 months off the boil. I don't recall what this came out right next to, but I think it was maybe one of the Uncharted games. So I went off and played some other game for a couple of months and then came back to it. And certainly by the time I came back to this, they had the alternate controls for the Batmobile in the menu. And as soon as you turned those on, it was fine. It played more like a GTA driving game, and it was very acceptable. Sorry, Billy, how'd you go?
No, so I didn't ever really have the problems with it, to be honest with you. So what are we? Arkham City had 440. If you're doing both as Catwoman,
okay, yep,
Batman, and Arkham Knight actually dropped them to 243. But being a much bigger map, They were spread out a lot more, and again, this had, similar to Origins, had the depth of
yes,
scaling buildings and that sort of stuff, which made them a lot harder to find because they were sort of concealed in and out of places. But I've got, as I said, I got all of them in this one. Just about drove me insane, I think.
I hear, mate. And sort of to your point there, I did play all 4 games, finished them, roll credits, and no matter how much I try, I cannot climb these buildings behind me. They're unclimbable. All right, game 5 this evening. It's Lego Batman 2. I'll start off by saying I've never played this game, but I am a huge Lego fan. If they had stayed on voice, I think it did add a certain amount of charm to the Lego. Sorry, mate, back to you.
No, just on that as well. I think not only did it have that a little bit of charm, but the other part for me is that it actually made them tell the jokes and the story a lot more through.
Should get onto that, Bully. Sorry, just breaking news. We've just had some comments. This just hot off the presses about the Lego chirpy voices versus voiceover. Apparently, it's an insult to video game voice actors. What you've just said. Standoff entry 6.
How are they supposed to be offended a $4,000 paycheck if you get someone just chirping in the background?
Do you know how long it takes to go in there and get that correct? That's weeks of work for any voice actor. Sorry, mate.
Just earn yourself $4 and get out of the studio.
Perfect. Batman Telltale? What have you got for us on this one, Billy?
Well, I know we spoke about the Telltale game before. Again, I probably did 3 or 4 chapters into this. I really wanted to get into it, really wanted to enjoy it. I'm a massive Batman fan, but it's just the Telltale games. I just can't do them. The gameplay's just not there for me. And if the gameplay's not there to get you through to the next part of the story, I just sort of go, I really want to see it out, but it's just not doing it for me.
Fair enough, mate. Personally, as I said, I played the first 2, maybe 3 Walking Dead Telltale games. Absolutely love them. For the Batman one, I bought all 5 episodes, but I think I only ever played 1.5. Maybe I finished that second chapter. And very much backing up your point, Bully, there just wasn't enough Batman action in it for me, and I moved on quite quickly. It was no, what's his name? Christopher Nolan, I want to say, Batman story. This, bringing me in. There was none of that business. It was quite mundane, I thought. I believe chapter 1 was all political intrigue with a party and, socialites and stuff. So, no, it was a big pass from me.
Well, and that was always the other issue that Telltale had at the time when they were releasing all these games. That, as you said, they were doing it episode by episode by episode, and each season would be 5 or 6 episodes, but it'd be 2 or 3 months in between each episode, and you'd sort of moved on.
Yeah.
You might have played that one episode, and it might have got its hooks into you, but then you're waiting 2 or 3 months for the next one to come out, and 7 or 8 months, 9 months, 12 months for the whole series to come in. By the end of it, you're sort of just going, I can't be bothered with this. Just release it as a whole package, or I'm just going to wait until you've released them all. If I've still got the interest, then I'll get them all, then just play them all in one lot. I really dumbfounded by the way they chose to do it, and I think that's changed now with the new Tales from the Borderland. They're just releasing it as a one big whack of a pack.
Correct. I can back up that point, mate. 100%. It all came out in one hit today or tomorrow, whenever it comes out. Which brings us to the final entrant for this week, Standoff, entrant number 7. Now, I have played this through, absolutely loved it, but unfortunately, I think it was about 30 minutes long. Bully, have you gone hands-on with Batman Arkham VR at all?
I have, and I think it was one of the first couple of games that I played on the VR. I got into the VR a bit late, but I was absolutely stunned. There's no game that I've ever played that gives you the actual feeling of being Batman, standing there looking at you can sort of wave your arms like this and see your gloves, and look down at the suit, and you can throw the batarangs and all the rest. And I still remember the feeling, and it's fairly early on in the game. I think you're standing at the top of a building, and you're looking over the edge of the building, looking down at the street, and just the feeling that it sort of gave you, looking there and standing there and thinking, "Well, this is amazing." And I know graphically, the PSVR wasn't amazing and hopefully we get something better. But it still gave you that feeling, I think. I don't know what
Yeah.
your thoughts are on it.
Oh, mate, I absolutely love that. I'm a huge Batman fan from back in the day. Batman comics, all the Batman films. I've enjoyed them all. And yes, being able to go VR for the first time, put the cowl on, have that UI come up, and then to your point, look down, have the utility belt, break out the various accoutrements, if you will, of Batman. It was phenomenal. I was a pig in shit, but the downside was it was about a half-hour experience and it was game over. I loved it, but just too short for this little black duck. How did you go with it, mate? Did it satisfy you with the length?
Oh, I could have always done with, double, triple, quadruple the time. I could have done with 4 or 5 hours of it, but I understand at the time it was almost
a tech demo.
Yeah, I was going to say it's almost like a tech demo, isn't it?
Yep.
As to what the VR could do, and that was you get a big IP in Batman, and then you sell that. Hey, look at what we've got. It's only on the PS4. You can't get it on any of the other VR platforms. We've got Batman, and you can be Batman irrespective of it's half an hour long. This is what we've got, and you're not going to get it anywhere else. And as I said, I was late to the VR game, but 100% enjoyed this one when I played it, even though it was short.
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I absolutely loved it. However, I would argue it can't win. But that brings me to the question, Bully. Who this week, in your mind, wins?
I think I'll go to for mine, the original Arkham Asylum. As I said at the jump off, I don't think anybody was expecting this when it came out. Amazing visually, amazing gameplay. It was a really tight, compact world that you're playing in. You revisited some of the areas from time to time. The gadgets that you slowly got, and it wasn't like your typical, let's unlock them, let's unlock it. You're Batman, you should have all of this stuff, but it was, Alfred dropping it off in the Batmobile, or dropping it off in the
Batwing dropped it in on the roof.
Yeah, that sort of stuff, and the gameplay as you're fighting through it. We'd never seen anything like that in terms of melee style gameplay with the counter button, or the maneuver that you could have to sort of do that, and then some enemies that you couldn't counter, so you had to get out of their way and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
The development of Batman along with Joker, and you see how they both sort of progress through the game, and like I said, just those little things like the cape and the uniform and stuff that degrade over time.
Yep.
I just thoroughly loved it. I've played it, I think, through start to finish 7 or 8 times. I've never done any of the challenges. I just, for some reason, cannot do them. So I will never platinum or get the 100% gamer score on it. But I reckon I'll go back and play this game once every sort of 12 or 18 months. I'll go back and have another crack at it.
Yep. I'm right there with you, mate. I have 100% backing up your call, mate. There's no way Arkham Asylum isn't the winner of this week's Standoff. Absolutely phenomenal game. High watermark in gaming. I would argue there hasn't been a breath of fresh air like this until earlier this year when Elden Ring came out, insofar as genre redefining moment, new high watermark.
Oh, 100% agree with you. And I'd go so far as to say, well, clearly we wouldn't have the follow-up Arkham games beyond that, but then we also wouldn't have had, that big interest or reignited interest in the superhero games, because at that point we'd sort of looked at them as movie tie-ins that are never they're just a cash cow. But sort of since then we've got the Batman, we've got the Spider-Man games that have come out, we've got Wolverine that's coming out. So I think it's sort of really spurred on that development over the last sort of 10 or 15 years since it's come out.
Yeah, and the Lord of the Rings games as well, directly lifted straight from this.
Yeah. The Shadow of Mordor.
Shadow of Mordor. Yeah, exactly. They've totally. I'm blanking now, but there are 100 games that have ripped off the mechanics of this. This was absolutely a high watermark and a valued winner this week of the Standoff. Arkham Asylum. A winner is you, Bully. That can only mean one thing, my friend. It is time for audience interrogation. What have they been saying in their YouTube chat, sir?
So we've got a couple in there. Eric Tate
Eric Tate, long-time viewer. Thank you for checking back in, sir. Great to see you.
He was just talking about the Telltale games and obviously the new Tales from the Borderland coming out tomorrow. He's excited for that one.
Oh, fantastic.
You'll have to
let us know.
Eric,
Yeah.
Because it certainly won't be on my playlist this week. He's asked, how is the new Batman game, so the one that comes out tomorrow, Gotham Knights, is not on the PS4? Short answer to that is, I think they just, as they were working through the development of it, it just got to the point where what they were trying to include and implement in the game just wasn't achievable on the PS4, so it had to be a PS5 only game, unless you've got anything to add on that one, Troy.
No, just that they, further to your point, mate, they switched gears mid-development, and unfortunately they haven't quite stuck the landing according to rumours, but hopefully they can patch it in, maybe a day one patch, maybe we have to wait a couple of weeks for a patch to get us up to 60 frames a second. Bit unfortunate on that front, but very much on the back of the Standoff's point, another Batman game, sign me up. I'm a big, long-time fan and can't wait to go hands-on tomorrow with Gotham Knights.
100%. And the last one before we jump out, and we won't tell his wife, but old Unky's managed to jump himself in, even though he should be on his anniversary date, but never mind. He's said that, so the A Plague Tale Requiem, he's jumped on that on the Series X with his 120 hertz TV.
Ooh.
Variable, if I can spit it out, the variable refresh rate is running at 40 FPS and 4K, and he has had no performance hiccups yet. But as we said earlier in the episode, 30 to 40 is probably under pars for the new systems, and you would have been really expecting, even if it was a performance mode at the cost of some of the graphical fidelity that you'd sort of be looking at a 60 frames. But there we go from Unky. So hopefully you've had a good night, buddy.
Beautiful work. Thank you, Unky. Hopefully you'll be back on a virtual couch next week with us right here on G.E.A. But, Bully, that will do it for this week, my friend. Thank you very much for joining me on episode, 46? My goodness, episode 46. Bully, thank you for joining me, mate.
Thank you very much. You were motoring along on those episodes.
Woo! Well, episode 50 in no time. Oh, my goodness. If I hadn't put a bit more pre-planning in, we could have sunk it up with the 4-year anniversary of the Let's Install series. Speaking of which, tomorrow, Gotham Knights and the one Call of Duty, but PS4 and PS5. So be sure to keep your eye on the channel tomorrow. But for now, Troy, Bully off. Thank you very much, Bully. We'll end it there. Hey, Bully, I've got one question for you, mate. Are you ready?
Shoot.
What else can you do with the channel?
You can like it, you can subscribe it, and you'll never miss it.
Nailed it!
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something.
I love everything about it. Ooh.
Old Uncle Donkey. Donkey.